Is it okay? I thought we checked in with with your, with the roommate, and she said it's okay for us to do a webinar here for 90 minutes. It's okay? Cool, thanks. We've got people here. Hello, people.
Inhaling, expanding this life force, this energy into your body, filling you. And exhaling, just releasing, letting go. Feeling any thoughts, energies, distractions, tension, stress, just to alleviate and let go toward the earth. And inhaling. And just dropping into your heart, maybe putting a hand on your heart. Breathing into this incredible heart. You're just even feeling its pulsing for a moment as you breathe into your heart. And just checking in. What is my heart longing for in this moment? Just allowing your heart to speak, to express itself. Your heart is so wise, intelligent, and also extremely vulnerable. So as we open into this field of energy of learning and growing together, I ask that we stay attuned to our heart, to the wisdom of our heart, and also presencing any feelings that are here, any desires. Again, everything is precious. There's no bad feelings, there's no bad needs, there's no wrong desires. In this work, we're leaving that world and we're acknowledging the preciousness of everything. Even when it's hard, even when we don't like it. So with that said, again, just taking the next 30 seconds or so and asking yourself, what would you most like to get out of our time together? Let's take one last big inhale together and release on some sound. And gently coming back into connection together and taking a moment and really seeing all these precious beings on the call, your tribe, just witnessing these beautiful beings, even if you can't see them on their video cameras, even just feeling their energies.
I certainly want to invite, if possible, those of you that have your cameras turned off. It's certainly okay to listen in, but boy, we sure love to see you. So don't be shy, even if you're eating and you're afraid that we're going to see you eating. It's just really wonderful to see people. So to the degree you're willing to turn on your cameras, that'd be wonderful. Thank you, Annie, for turning on your camera. Good to see Annie. So we're in Mount Shasta, where we've been actually vision questing for the last couple of days. So we're both in a very soft, very present space. And one of the things that we both kind of talked about just before coming online is we want to really kind of carry, maybe moving a little bit slower. You know, sometimes I think when we do our Facebook Lives or our videos, we're a little bit more amped up, a little bit more. And so you're going to get a little bit more lower key, gentle. Oh, yay, Linda and Rob have turned on their camera. Good to see them. Hello, Linda. A reminder for some of you who came on a little bit later that we're going to offer a tool or two, and then we're going to do coaching. So if you are interested in receiving coaching right now from Emily and myself, please go into the chat box and communicate with Stephen. Stephen is our partner. We're going to be traveling and teaching with Stephen in British Columbia starting in a few days. And but for today, he's willing to kind of check in with people who want to be coached. So please check in with Stephen. And again, you can go down to the chat box, and where it says to, you can chat, let everyone know what you want to talk about, or you can just find Stephen, click to Stephen, and then start the conversation. It'll be a private conversation with you and Stephen.
A couple things before we get started is just a couple agreements to kind of honor our container. Is whatever we share of a private nature, we want to, really sanctify and keep that sacred inside this space. Even if we share something personal, even though you see us share a lot of stuff on personal on Facebook, we really like to kind of keep that contained in our group tonight. Anything of a tool nature, you can go ahead and share. We're not proprietary. If you do share something that we teach, we do like acknowledgement and also just a recognition of like my understanding of this tool that I learned from Love Coach Academy is, and then kind of your own spin on it. Also, just to really, when stuff comes up for us, that we do our best to take good care of ourselves, that we acknowledge what's alive for us, we take good care of our needs. And naturally, when people share stuff, a lot can come up, right? Our own triggers can come up. We might want to fix it, or we might want to reassure that person how they could be better. We want to heal them. We want to do our best to just acknowledge those beautiful desires, and again, bring the energy back to us and keep reflections of others in our experience. So using I statements, this is what's going on for me in relation to your sharing. And do our best to, again, in Love Coach Academy, it's all about empathy first. How do we really build connection first before offering that great solution or that reassurance or the advice? And that's kind of a big agreement.
Good.
Anything else?
I think you covered it. Good job.
Okay, cool.
So I'm really happy that I get to take us into our first practice. And it's a practice that many of you have done with me before, or with Emily and I before. And even if you've done it before, do it again. Why? Because it's a practice. And the more we practice, the more we integrate these tools into our life, into our lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And this is a practice that Emily and I now live. I first learned it 8 years ago from a wonderful teacher named Robert Gonzalez, who I highly recommend. And I've kind of adapted it over the years. And it's a beautiful, beautiful practice that helps us to really learn how to stay connected to what's really true with ourselves and not to get lost. And you'll see in a moment as we do it what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. You know that experience where you get lost in that looping pattern where you're just staying in that looping, that misery, that looping, that fear. And it's like, how do I get out of this? Well, this is definitely a powerful practice to be able to shift that.
So I'd like for each and every one of you to think of a painful thought you've been running through your mind recently. You're not going to share it with the group. You're not going to share it with anybody. You're going to keep it to yourself. But we're going to work with this painful thought for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. So pick a big one. Pick whatever, when you think of this thing, ouch. Now, it can be a painful thought about another person. She doesn't love me. He doesn't respect me. He'll never change. It can be a painful thought about how the world treats you. People don't get me. People don't understand me. It can be a painful thought about yourself. I am not fill in the blank enough. I'm not wealthy enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm too fat. I'm too thin. Any of those thoughts would be fine. Pick one that you're going to work with. Does anybody need more time to choose their thought? If so, raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to give Craig another minute. Okay. So I'd like you to please close your eyes and really drop into the practice if at all possible. Close your eyes and please run this painful thought through your mind 5, 6, 7 times. And as you're running it through your mind, please notice if there's anything that takes place in your body, any corresponding feeling, sensation, contraction. I want you to be with that for about 1 minute. So noticing what comes up for you with this painful thought. And after you've kind of taken an inventory of how your body reacts, you can slowly open your eyes and come back into the room. I really want to thank you for the willingness to do this. I realize that there's a lot of discomfort that can come up. It will be worth it because you're going to learn how to manage painful thoughts. I'm not going to call on anybody right now, but I just want to ask for those of you whose videos screens I can see, who have your cameras on, if you had a corresponding discomfort in your body, just raise your hand. Just want to see how many people had a corresponding discomfort. Okay, most everybody. It's not essential to the practice, but it's a little bit useful, as you'll see in a moment. But if you didn't have a corresponding discomfort in your body, that's okay. This practice still is going to be valuable for you. Now, I'd like to ask you to get a pen and paper or open up something on your cell phone or even on your computer, just to write 2 short phrases. Each phrase is about 6 words. So just to write down 2 short phrases that I'm going to give to you. The first phrase is, I am telling myself that, ... I am telling myself that, ... And the second phrase is, I am in my story that, ... I am in my story that, ... I'll repeat those again in a moment. I am telling myself that, and the other one is, I am in my story that. Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to run that painful thought again. Sorry. But this time, you're going to pick one of those 2 phrases, and you're going to put it at the start of your thought. If you chose something about another person or the outside world, I'd suggest probably going with, I'm telling myself that she doesn't love me. I'm telling myself he doesn't respect me. I'm telling myself he'll never change. I'm telling myself the world doesn't like me. If it's an ongoing story that you run about yourself, and a story doesn't mean that it's a fiction, it just means that it's something that you run so much that it's become a story in your mind. So if it's an ongoing story of, I weigh too much or I'm not smart enough, then go with, I'm in my story that I weigh too much. I'm in my story that I'm not good enough. I'm in my story that I'll never find true love. Okay? So everybody, has ever chosen one of those 2 phrases to put at the start of your thought? Just choose one. And now we're going to close our eyes again, and we're going to do it another 6 or 7 times. Your phrase and then the thought. The phrase and then the thought. The phrase and then the thought. And notice if there's a difference in how your body reacts or how your body responds. And also if there's a notice in how your consciousness even holds that thought. Okay? And as you're running this thought, but now with the phrase at the beginning each time, taking an inventory, how's my body responding this time? And is this different from the first time I ran the thought without the phrase at the beginning? All right, and you can open your eyes after you've done that, kind of come back into the room and just kind of clear the space in each of our own rooms. Just kind of clear the space, kind of, yeah, get rid of that. Thank you. So again, I'm not going to call on anybody yet, but just by raise of hands, who noticed a difference between the first time and the second time? And who noticed a substantial difference? Who noticed a difference in how their body responded or reacted? Okay, wonderful. Now, I would love to ask if any of you would be willing to share. You don't have to tell us what the painful thought was unless you want to, but what the difference was between the first time and the second time. I'm going to do the unmuting. It just makes it easier. So who would be willing to share the difference that they experienced? Just raise your hand. I'll call on you and unmute. Andrea. Thank you.
Sure. So I was aware that I was feeling tension in my chest and stomach area, like torso, I guess, and sadness, pain. The first time when I was telling myself, and then because it's an old story, and then when I said I'm telling myself that, there was very little emotion, a lot less. I mean, there was still a little bit, but less. And there was some relief, like, oh, wow, that's not really necessarily true. And I've been telling myself this for probably 57 years. Or, I don't know, maybe 55. But, yeah, it was a relief, like, wow, that's not necessarily true. I'm just telling myself all kinds of stuff that's not true.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you so much. Thanks for being the first person to kind of share with us too. And I'm really grateful. And so it's so good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
Who else would like to share? Okay, Craig and then Lusana. Oh, Craig. Okay, so Lusana, you're up.
Thank you. It was overwhelming to feel the initial thought. Overwhelming. And part of my lesson is to not be overwhelmed by what I'm experiencing. So, so I felt it, my heart, my throat, my solar plexus, my gut, everything, just like, and when I used the phrase, I'm in my story, that, there was relief. There was some neutrality. There was some observer able to see. And my request is, how can I do this on my own? Because it's like so fucking overwhelming when I allow myself to look at those beliefs that I've held, for however many decades. My request is, how can I support myself in not drowning? And yes, I feel the difference. And to me, it's like, so how come I can't practice this on my own? I don't get why I can't, but putting it out there. Okay. And thank you, because
we will respond to that in a moment. I'd like to hear from one more person, and then maybe Emily might want to give a response as to how to do this on their own.
Great.
Too. So thank you, Lusana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there one more person who'd be willing to share the difference between the first time and the second time? One more person willing to do that? Would you be? Did you have a difference?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I don't I notice I'm not really active in my mind. I'm more active in my body. So I'm a body-based feeling. So I just go to the pain instead of going to the thought, because I just have a lot of discomfort in my body. And then usually I go to the pain in my body and I find out more information by going to my body. So because my mind is not running necessarily a lot of stories or that I'm aware of, but my body will tell me what's going on. So because I have so much pain in my body, my story was my body's rejecting me, or my body's always in pain. Because that is my experience. I feel so much that it's a state of probably overwhelm, like you go through, Lusana. I just feel so much discomfort. I feel a lot of discomfort like every day. And I've really had to learn how to manage that pain, and to learn to accept it, and to learn to allow it, and to learn to welcome it, and to love myself through that. That's my practice, is the self-sourcing, because it might not go away. And can I be okay with that? And that's the power of the practice of acceptance and love, is can I love myself through that experience? And so I think that was more of my experience, is like, can I just allow myself to love the fact that I'm in pain right now? And that's okay. So I think that was more of where I went with the practice.
Yeah, thank you.
I went a little off from it.
Well, there's a beautiful teaching what you shared. Yeah. So first of all, if any of you didn't experience a difference between the first time and the second time, that's okay. We teach this at almost every class and workshop that we do. And usually 90% of the people approximately have a difference, and about 10% of the people don't. Try it again, do it over and over. Emily and I Wendy, who's recently was living with us for a while she was visiting, will probably tell you, she probably hears us all the time saying, honey, I'm in my story that, or, Emily, I'm noticing that I'm telling myself that. It's become part of the way we frame almost everything that we reflect to the other.
Because everything we think about somebody else is a projection. It may or may not be true. But usually we think everything's right in our reality, right? And of course, if we're thinking it, then it's got to be true.
And the thing about painful thoughts is we trigger our own reptile brain. You see, for those of you that did notice a difference between the first time and the second time, what happened is by just adding 6 words, I'm telling myself that, or I'm in my story that, you changed the neurological pathway of your brain. You went from triggering your reptile brain, like Andrea, really believing whatever that story was, Lusana really experiencing that painful story, to moving into your frontal lobe. Now, this is really huge, because most of what Emily and I teach and subscribe to and practice is how can we live our life in presence to what is, as opposed to living our life triggered by reaction. And so this incredible practice gives us the way to move and change our neurological pathway so we're in our frontal lobe. You see, when we're in our frontal lobe, that's where the observer part of the brain is, and the empathy center of the brain is. And that's why we can look at the big picture. I'm going to talk about this.
Identified. See, once we identify with the thought, we imprisonate ourselves.
Imprisonate, that's a new word.
Imprisonate. Imprisonate. and that's why so much of us are suffering, because we're staying caught in the belief systems of our mind. And our mind is good for quantifying, evaluating, making sense. It's good for analyzing and structuring. It's good for that, but it's not a good place to live our life by. It's like we want to really learn to live our life by our heart, by the intuitive sense of what our body needs, and by our higher self. And that's really the direction we're moving into. And that's the direction our species is graduating and moving into, because you know what? Congratulations. Most of you guys are not living in physical survival. Some of you guys are. I mean, it's like, it's challenging, money issues and those kinds of things, but really we're not living in a place of lions coming after us to attack us. We're not in physical survival. Most of us have our basic needs pretty much met. And so we're now able to move out into evolving our consciousness. And that's what all of you guys are doing.
And so by learning how to notice, oh, I don't want to trigger my own reptile brain. I have a painful story that he doesn't love me. Oh, I'm telling myself that he'll never change or that I'm not good enough. And so by noticing it, then we start noticing what our painful stories are, and we can start having more empathy for ourselves and empathy for others. And to kind of conclude this piece, by the way, I'm really appreciating all the new people who joined us, including some of our favorite people, including Ann West is with us.
Mm-hmm.
And Angie Lucido, I love Angie. Jill, I'm guessing that's probably Jill Cole. Hello, Ann. Ann is an amazing teacher. So, and one of my oldest and dearest friends. So it's really cool to have you with us. Yeah, yeah. Feel free to jump in with anything you want to add, because Ann's brilliant. So I want to just finish this little practice by telling a quick story about the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama allowed brain researchers to hook up electrodes to his brain and scan where his synapses were firing. And they ran tests with him for about 90 minutes. And what they found was no matter what data he was given, no matter what feedback he was responding to, his synapses were firing entirely at all times in his frontal lobe, his forebrain. Even at the end of the research, the very last thing they did was they showed him photographs of Chinese soldiers burning down a Tibetan temple. And they asked him, how do you feel when you think about Chinese soldiers burning down Tibetan temples, raping Tibetan women, murdering Tibetans? How do you feel when you think about that? And the Dalai Lama wept. He didn't stuff his feelings. He wept. And yet his synapses were firing entirely in his frontal lobe. And again, because that's where the observer part of the brain is and the empathy center of the brain, that's why he can authentically, with total sincerity, say, thank you for your prayers for our Tibetan people. Please remember to pray equally for the Chinese soldiers. So why do we teach this? Because in our life, in our relationships, things happen that are so painful. I so want this person to be different. I so want my life to be different. Oh my God, the headline of what I'm reading is so painful. Right? Now the pain is real. And we don't want to stuff the pain. The Dalai Lama cried. So we feel our feelings, but we notice what's the story, what's the interpretation I'm assigning to the way Emily talked to me today, or the way my neighbor looked at me today, or what this person did or didn't do. What's my story? What's my interpretation? And can I notice when I'm making an interpretation and a story out of it, and instead go into my frontal lobe and really try and see the big picture, having total empathy for my neighbor or Emily as well as myself. And that's why we do this practice.
A couple of things. I noticed some people weren't able to really notice a difference. Some people didn't raise their hand. So a couple things that you might consider of why you might not have noticed a big difference is maybe that the story that you picked needs to be refined a little bit. Like, so someone might pick a story of, I lost my job. Well, that might be true in your reality, but there's a deeper story of what that means if you lost your job. So I lost my job. There must be something wrong with me. So again, you want to go with, sometimes you have to take a cover story and you need to go a little bit deeper to find that painful story underneath it. And sometimes that will help you to kind of anchor more into, because that story might be true, but a deeper interpretation is where we can actually kind of work or utilize and work that can be more effective. Also, too, sometimes when we don't have an experience of being able to have a shift with the I'm telling myself exercise is because we are really desperate for empathy. That that we've been so ingrained in that story or attached to that story, or maybe we in our reality have been victimized by that person, or it's just a really reoccurring deep painful wound that we're so desperate for empathy that it's hard to get off the story. So those are a couple of things that if you didn't notice a shift, that might be kind of in there for you to play around with.
I'd love for us to answer Lusana's question and then maybe get to some coaching.
Cool.
Yeah. So how do you live this more in your life, Emily? You've already talked a little bit about it, but what's a practice that you can give to Lusana in the group for how to really notice and to notice the difference between the story and what's happening on a deeper level?
Well, I think, Lusana, I just want to say, when I told you about how can I accept the unlovable parts of myself? You know, how can I be okay with a part of me that I deem unlovable or that's not changing? I notice that the most liberation and transformation is when we can stop trying to change ourselves or change our environment or others, and deeply fall into a space of loving that part of ourselves. Because there are parts of our life and parts of our being that are in there, that are wounded, that are challenged. And I think part of the pain body of the reoccurring pain is all the ways we try to change or bypass or avoid or stuff or run away. And how can we bring more love to the unacceptable parts of ourselves or the unlovable parts of ourselves? Or for me, I'm in pain a lot in my body, so I just have to love my body for even the pain that I feel. And can I allow that to be okay? And recognize, for me, the pain in my body, I've shifted the story that, wow, I'm so sensitive, I'm so alive. I'm so alive, I feel so much, I'm so alive. And part of the aliveness is feeling the density, the pain, the challenge, the overwhelm, all of it, and the texture, the hot, the warm, the spicy, the pulls in my back. I mean, it's all there giving me some kind of information, you know? And so how can I let my pain inform me to be a gift or a teacher? How can I love the unacceptable? How can I love the unlovable? That's kind of my biggest transformation is that piece.
And I'm learning that from Emily, and it's funny because today Emily and I were in Mount Shasta, and we both have spent a day, her yesterday, today I was with him, this amazing urban shaman who took us up into the mountain and worked with us. And what I was working with was my deepest pain, how to manage it and work with it. And it was all about learning to fully embrace and love it.
Yeah.
Because what happens is we're so afraid of being engulfed by our sadness, being engulfed. And what happens is when we begin to really feel the pain, it does amplify. It begins to amplify because it's so wanting to be heard. You know, it's so wanting to be known. It's like, Scott, I'm in here. I was working a lot with the pain of my mother and the pain of my father and how it lives inside of me. And it wants to be heard. And so when you do first start to go in and feel it, it actually amplifies, and then you get scared. Oh my God, I'm going to get engulfed. I'm going to get totally taken out by this pain. And then you want to stuff it back again. You know, so it's like you can keep breathing through it and just start by acknowledging it, giving it your attention, accepting it, and then loving it. And loving it by merging with it. And then it begins to dissipate.
Liberate.
There's a liberation.
It's a liberation, yeah.
And it's deep work. And honestly, I mean, again, Ann West is with us. Ann is somebody who takes people through journeys like that, how to really work with that. So it's for our deeper stuff, it's good to have a coach like Emily or Ann.
Someone that can move you into those spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's an amazing thing. It's like so much of our pain is just, again, because we're resisting, we're bypassing, we're numbing, we're shutting down. And so then it amplifies because that's what wounds do. They amplify, they so that they can heal. And so that's the attention of like, hey, it's here because I want to be known. I want to be felt. I want to be understood. And so if we can know that it's safe to go into those experiences and that they're not going to kill us, they're not going to overwhelm us. I mean, we're not going to die essentially, but there is a liberation in moving through it. It's powerful. It's really powerful. It's liberating.
According to a friend of mine who's a very good psychologist, she said that they've actually discovered that depression is primarily caused by people who are suppressing their own sadness. And so they're so afraid of being taken out by the sadness that instead of mourning and just experiencing the sadness, they keep stuffing it. And that actually is what causes the depression, because they've numbed themselves. And the more they numb themselves, the more they experience depression, which is pretty fascinating. Stephen, I want to thank you for the beautiful things you're writing in the chat box. For those of you who came in late, if you're interested in receiving coaching from Emily and I, please connect with Stephen via the chat box. And Stephen, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and just ask you if there's anybody that you have spoken to that you think is ready to receive a little bit of coaching from us.
Yeah, actually, one person who you've already spoken to, Lusana, mentioned a juicy piece that I think would be some gold to go through live. Lusana was interested about self-empathy and staying self-connected.
Beautiful.
Did you have any particular, did you want to bring up a specific issue, or did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
And before Luciana starts, just if anybody else is interested in coaching, again, please reach out to Stephen, and he'll chat with you a little bit. You go down to the chat box, start the conversation. And Luciana?
Could you repeat the question, please, Emily?
Yeah, well, Stephen just said that you're interested to find some more tools for self-empathy and self-connection. Is there a particular issue or a particular challenge or something that you would like support around?
Well, we're starting to. For me, it's a beginning because I haven't yet integrated what you've shared. Each time I open myself to experience some of the pain, some of the self-abuse, some of the shit I've done to myself, okay, as a result of taking in, what happened and making decisions about it, etc. It's overwhelming. It is fucking overwhelming. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm still in survival mode, financially, physically, emotionally, and in so many ways. And I'm afraid of drowning in the pain because in the past I did. And so I would like, because I listened to the self-sourcing, the beginning to, thank you very much for that. And it was tremendously difficult to do that. And so I would like a way to be able to delve into what I've been shutting down, what I've been suppressing because it's overwhelming, and to be able to delve into it without the fear, or even with the fear, but to be able to delve into it, knowing I'll get through it. And to me, it means, and maybe I'm wrong, but it means self-empathy. I don't know. I don't know what it needs, but I'm asking for help with that because it's exhausting. It's really physically exhausting, and I don't want to run away from it anymore.
Thank you. I'm only muting you because it's easier so there's no feedback.
I want to get on the same page as Scott, so I'm kind of going to lean into his ear for a minute. I'm not talking about you, but I'm just getting on the same page.
Yeah. If you want to, maybe establish it and then see if the group want, if you feel inspired.
So the first thing that comes up, Lusana, is how is your connection to your inner wise self or your higher self?
Getting better. Not as good as I would like. I do know that when I do connect, I can feel hope and peace and the things that I want to express in the world. However, when I dive into these painful thoughts, it's like I disconnect. I don't know how to stay connected.
Okay. Thank you. So again, we trigger our own reptile brain with our own painful thoughts. And remember, when the primitive brain or the reptile brain gets triggered, we only have three options, really: fight, flight, or freeze. And so what I just heard her describe was she goes into flight, right? When it becomes too painful, we get knocked out of our body. Now that's usually what happens, or we go into freeze. Often I've noticed with people, if we feel overwhelmed, or we have guilt, or we have shame, that often will trigger the freeze reaction where we're just frozen, we're in paralysis, or the flight reaction where we're knocked out of our body. Because we usually don't fight with ourselves. With another person, if we think with a bigger reptile, we might choose fight. So that's just, again, something to remember. And so that everybody can relate to what we're talking about, you may want to think about what is something about yourself that's so painful that when it comes up, maybe somebody reflects it to you. Maybe there's somebody who points it out to you. Maybe there's somebody in your world that just by seeing them, it brings up this pain about yourself. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not beautiful enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not thin enough. I'm not whatever it might be enough. So I just want to encourage people so that as we're working with Lusana, we're hopefully actually working with everybody in how to manage some of our deepest pain about ourselves. Does that make, just by raising hands, I'm not going to call anybody, who's on board for that, to kind of work on this together? Great, thank you. Thank you, everybody. So Emily, I got to say, is remarkable at self-sourcing. Listen, I live with her, and we've been living together for a long time. We live together, we work together, we travel together. And what's interesting is Emily's emotions can change really quickly. I mean, in an hour, she might be crying, she might be laughing, she might be dancing, she might be making sounds and movement that sound like she's from another planet, that scares the dog that he runs under the bed, right? All these things can happen in the course of an hour. The good news is because she does that, she feels things so long. When she gets triggered, or when we have a trigger between us, it doesn't last long at all. I mean, she doesn't hold on to it. And I've had, girlfriends that, they'd hold on to for weeks. I have an ex who's been holding on to stuff for 15 years. Emily doesn't hold on to it because she moves it through her body so quickly. So I'm kind of giving a testimonial about Emily because I'm in awe watching how quickly she can move through the pain of the world, or the pain of her body, or the pain of her mother, or the pain when we have a trigger between us.
Which is great medicine. It's like being careful how you keep running the thoughts of even, I'm going to be engulfed by my pain. I'm not going to get out of it. Right there, if you're running those thoughts, you're just going to stay there because you're not actually allowing yourself to move the energy and go into the pain. So it's more about giving yourself the reassurance of, I can do this. I'm going to be okay if I move into the pain. The pain, moving through the pain is actually my liberation. Mm-hmm. And I am going to feel it. I'm going to moan. I'm going to groan. I'm going to label the experience of what I'm sensing. Again, you don't want to go back into the mind evaluation of like, I can't believe I've failed myself so long because I've been doing this to myself. That's the evaluation. That's the mind that keeps you in the misery. Mm-hmm. You got to just be willing to go in and feel and move the energy out of your body and be with it, naming the sensations until it becomes a space of like, eventually you'll probably stop naming it. You're like, wow, I'm feeling this, this is coming through. Yeah, it's just like, exactly. And there's going to be eventually a place usually of like repose, of peace, and even of oneness. Yeah, of calm, right? Because you're moving, you're naming it, you're moving the energy, you're allowing it to pass through like waves.
So here's another way of looking at it. Think of your favorite experiences you've ever had with another being. It could be a human being, a dog, a cat, your favorite experiences. What's going on? You're connecting at such a deep level. You're feeling unconditional love. Oh my God, my dog loves me so much and I love my dog so much. Or our lovemaking is so beautiful. We're really loving each other right now. So when we, or even in nature, oh my God, like right now, it's happening for us because we're in Mount Shasta.
You feel
so
that
gorgeous.
exalted connection to all that is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's it like to apply that same unconditional love that you have for your dog or your cat or your child or your mother or nature to yourself, and specifically to the parts of yourself that you have shame or embarrassment around, or that you're afraid of facing because you don't want to be engulfed by it. So I'm just curious, who can relate to that? Who can, relate to that?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody want to comment on it? Stephen, would you be willing to comment?
I'll vulnerably share that I'm going through a process right now in my life where I'm cleaning up a piece of a financial mess that I created like a decade ago, and I can totally relate to that experience of fearing something out of fear of being engulfed by it. And just quite recently, I've been leaning into that cleanup process and giving myself permission to. I love how one of my teachers said, "Being comfortable with being uncomfortable."
Mm-hmm.
And giving my self permission to drop into that space and kind of take the reins and really take control of the situation. And I found it really empowering.
Thank you, Stephen. I recognize I kind of called on you before I was clear whether or not you were saying yes, you were willing.
That's okay. That's okay.
Here's a way to do it. Remember when you loved somebody else really well, and really drop into the remembrance of that feeling. What did it feel like when I was totally loving my dog or my child or my little sister or my lover? Remember what that felt like. Bring it into your body. Bring that full-bodied, embodied experience of unconditional love, which is actually kind of emerging. And then in that state, shift the attention from the memory of when you were focusing on your dog or your lover into focusing on that disowned part of yourself. The part of me that made a financial mess. The part of me that lost my job. The part of me that, whatever it might be. And really, can you hold it? Can you hold that space of love for yourself or that part of yourself? You know how to do it. You did it with your dog. You did it with your child. You did it with somebody or something else. You did it with nature. So just keep practicing it. Okay. Feeling it, remembering it, and then applying it to that part of yourself.
And the more that you do that and you can hold that, you can actually start dialoguing with yourself. I call this voice dialogue work. And like Lusana, you can start doing that. You can start feeling that part of you, again, that's flipping into your higher self, or that part of you that's in that space of love and talking to the more vulnerable self, or the part of you that's really scared, your little girl that's scared that she's going to get taken out by her pain. And you can start dialoguing, oh, wow, I see this is overwhelming for you, sweetie. You're going to be okay. you're going to survive this. You're going to get through this. And then that little girl can talk back. Well, I don't know. I'm really needing to know that I'm going to be okay. You're going to be okay, sweetie. I've got you. So like, there's just that dialogue that you can start to now form as a relationship, and giving yourself that beautiful permission of that beautiful relationship inside of you that you're so worthy of, that you're so deserving of.
Something that Emily helped me with, ironically, in Mount Shasta 2 years ago, was creating a relationship between my most empowered, exalted self, which I call Hall of Fame Scott. He's the world's greatest shortstop in an alternate reality. And my most kind of vulnerable, scared self, which I call Rat Fink Scott, which was when I was a little kid, and I was kind of picked on, and they called me Rat Fink. And Hall of Fame Scott plays catch with Rat Fink Scott back and forth. And for Rat Fink Scott, it's amazing. I'm playing catch with the world's greatest shortstop. And it's actually kind of me if I really get it all together and what's possible for me. And for Hall of Fame Scott, it's equally rewarding, because there I am in my power and in my confidence and in my love of life and self, nurturing and loving that little guy that I once was.
And Ratfink Scott was his little boy that a lot of the other little boys picked on, and they wrote that on his mitt.
Baseball mitt.
His baseball mitt, because he was, again, Scott was kind of accelerated twice, known to be smart, but not so much for being athletic.
Right.
And so the boys would pick on him.
Mm.
So again, Hall of Fame Scott's like, hey, you're included. You're right here.
Yeah.
This is how important you are.
I enjoy playing catch with you. I look forward to playing catch with you and just talking about anything, right? It's very healing. It's an amazing experience. So, doing sub-personality work or voice dialogue work is something that Emily kind of actually brought more into our practice. And she does it a lot with her clients, and I'm doing it more and more with mine. And we've had amazing breakthroughs with some of our clients. We did together voice dialogue work with a woman who was 69 years old, who had never been in a good relationship, hadn't dated for 4 years. We did significant voice dialogue work with her, helping her to talk to her own little girl and her own woman who wanted to be loved. And to make a long story short, her life transformed. She met a wonderful man, and we performed their wedding ceremony 6 months ago. And that was all through voice dialogue work of her learning to love herself, learning to love her little girl, learning to love the woman, find the woman who wants to be loved and believes that she can be loved. Mm-hmm. At age 69, never had a good relationship.
Yeah. And 20 years of being a heroin addict, 20 years sober, but just like really struggled, like parents that abused her, a lot of self-loathing. I mean, she was very suicidal when she started working with us. So we even thought we might not be able to reach her.
After our first session, honestly, I thought she was beyond our capacity. I was afraid, but it worked out amazingly. Now, she did the work. Yeah. She really did the work.
She did the work so much that every session she transcribed it word for word and then emailed it after our work.
To us.
Yeah, that's how dedicated she was.
And she went from being suicidal and very alone
to married and
very happily
happy.
Happily married.
So again, it just shows us what the power of if we really commit to our work, what we can transform, we can change.
Stephen, I'm wanting to check in with you to see if there's anybody else that has volunteered for coaching that might be ready to work with us.
I have written maybe 3 or 4 messages in the last 15, 20 minutes, letting people know that coaching is available, and nobody's responded to me. So I think this is a really great opportunity. So if nobody else jumps on it, then I think I might volunteer for some coaching.
Okay.
Cool. I just saw Laura raise her hand, so I've unmuted Laura.
Oh, great.
But then maybe we'll work with Laura and David, and then with you.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, guys.
Hey, Laura. I'm going to actually spotlight you.
Thank you. Wow. Woo. That's yeah. So first of all, I just want to say that our whole relationship has it's just, I don't know, tell them how different it is after working with Scott and Emily for this long.
Hey, you started this. Cool.
Well, it just,
It's,
it's amazing. Like,
I love how she leads in and then goes, go ahead.
it's,
Yeah.
but it's like night and day, just how we can communicate with each other. But, so we're getting into these deeper realms that are so great. And today I was feeling uncomfortable in the kitchen, and just giving you the scene. And and I forgot exactly what was going on, but David started approaching me, and it was like in a soothing way, but it was also like a just wanting to kind of suppress my feelings because they were hard for him. But my ninja move, because Emily and Scott teach us how to be heart ninjas, was to get to a point where I could say in the moment when he's trying to kind of like soothe me, but I'm not ready for that, is I'm scared and I'm sad. But what I'm noticing is I am so terrified in the moment that I'm triggered, in my primitive brain, to say that I'm scared or I'm sad. And I know that that's the ninja move. So I just need help with how to get there faster so that then I don't freak him out. And then I start coaching him because I'm so freaked out inside, right? That's what you guys talked about earlier, about the coaching, right?
And I'm like, yeah, you're coaching me now.
But so we would love some support with how to do that ninja move faster or just more efficiently, right?
Great question. Thank you. And I just want to say, Emily and I teach this stuff, and we still, all the time, just while we were having dinner, she was kind of sharing the space she was in, and that was a little different from the space that she is normally in when she's doing a webinar. We got a webinar starting in about 30 minutes. I completely bypassed empathy, completely forgot to just drop into her world, and immediately tried to, give her advice and fix it and make it better, right? So that was an hour and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so hard sometimes because, especially as men, we so want to be the hero. We so want to save the day and fix our beloved. And when we see our beloved having any form of discomfort or uncomfortable feelings, here I come to save the day. Mighty Mouse is on his way. So I just got to own that, okay?
Right. Honestly, there's some selfish stuff that goes on for me, and I just kind of, wow, I'm just getting really vulnerable here. It's like I just want it to go away.
Yeah.
I want to fix it. I want it to be over with because, I'm thinking, here we go. Another 45-minute conversation, and I'm not going to get anything done.
Engulfment, exactly.
And I'm sorry.
It's okay. You just call it out.
So yeah, I would love a 2-word fix it right there. She'll tell me, well, if you could have just done this, then it would have been done.
He hates that.
And then when I use it and it doesn't work, I come unglued. I absolutely come unglued. I'm like, really? Really? That's the shit you told me to say.
He
builds
a really good case.
Oh my God, I get so angry.
Building the case, yeah.
So yeah, you know what? We're getting there. It's been about 11 months.
No, we're doing so much better. We really I want to feel safe enough to say I'm scared or I'm sad and have to go faster where it's like cool,
Yeah.
Guys, I love you so much. Thank you for being so perfectly human, being so real, so vulnerable. We need to do a sitcom with you guys because you so typify, you are like the just classic example of a couple, and of a couple that love each other, are devoted, and trigger each other perfectly, amazingly. So, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say one thing that does help us a lot, you guys, and I, as we become love coaches, eventually this is what we will teach our clients. We just for 2 days, I walked around going mad. And now all day today, he's been saying mad. And we let the innocent part of ourselves just do that because neither one of us could do it as kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, I gotta say, it's so soothing. It really is.
Well, you know why? Because again, it's actually exactly what we've been talking about today.
Moving energy.
Moving energy and totally merging with what is.
Right.
Right. Stuffing that I'm mad and acting like I'm not mad, and then throwing out little passive aggressive digs. I'm just owning I'm mad right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if anyone was in our house, you guys,
Yeah.
it would just be hysterical.
So I want to say, Laura, I have the same part of me that comes up a lot. I really relate to that a lot. You know, it's like when we feel that place of going into the fight response, which is either explaining ourselves, defending ourselves, making our case, teaching them, caretaking, all of those things. It's like recognizing that place can feel really empowered in the moment. Like, okay, this is what I need. Right. But we're in our controller, which is like, you know, that armored place.
Mm-hmm.
So the quicker you can go recognize, oh, wow, when am I going outside into a fight response? Like, and really, again, putting your hands on your body and even shifting in and being like, whoa, I got to take a moment.
Oh.
And closing your eyes, putting your hands on your body and just dropping in and being like, sweetie, I love you. I got to take a moment. I'm about to defend, or I'm about to tell you what you need to do better. Like I even call that out, you know, and sometimes I'm not good at it. Sometimes I do it and then I'm like, oh my God. And Scott's like, oh wow, you're defending or, you know, and then I'm like, okay, hands on body, drop in, close my eyes. Can I get down into what's really going on for me? I'm feeling scared right now.
Mm.
And sometimes if you can't get there and you're too in your case, it's time to take a red light.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's okay. If you can't get there, then that's okay too. Like don't make yourself wrong if you can't say I'm scared. If you're too like in that place of being too pissed off, you can say, sweetie, I love you and I'm needing to create a boundary right now because I'm not centered and I really want to talk to you when I can really be in touch with my vulnerability.
Mm.
And I'd love to give a couple of tips to David as the man.
Okay.
So first off, for everybody, all of us, slow down. The most important thing at all times, the moment you feel the tension rising, the moment you feel that first agitation, the moment you feel that first contraction, the moment you feel something funky in the field, slow it down. Don't speed up. Slow down. It's the most important thing. For us as the man, okay, we see our partner is doing something or saying something that implies that she's in discomfort. Managing our discomfort with her discomfort is the first step.
It's the hardest thing to do in a relationship, by the way, so welcome.
and this is where, you know, Marshall Rosenberg taught me and us the beautiful thing of giving yourself an emergency dose of self-empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk in, you're in a good mood, you're really ready to, you know, have something, and your partner says, have you seen the floor? Have you seen this mess? Have you seen, you know, okay, let's just say that's what it is. I'm really frustrated with the way this looks right now. Now, odds are no matter how much you love your partner, your first thought is going to be, oh, shit, give me a break. I don't want to deal with this. That's probably what's going to happen, some variation of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I didn't do it.
Yeah, right, but I didn't do it.
Wasn't me.
It's the dog. God damn it.
You ain't got video. Wasn't me.
Right. So our ego is like, oh no, I don't want to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
So then we we slow down and we check in. Can I manage my discomfort that's arising around my partner's discomfort? What's going on with her? And here's a wonderful question to ask. Am I capable in this moment of my love for Emily, my love for Laura? Can it supersede my ego, which wants to make her wrong, defend myself, run like hell,
Or make myself wrong.
do something to fix it quickly, right? Because see, we're going to want to defend ourselves, deny it, diminish it, distract. We call it the 5 Ds. All the ways to avoid this uncomfortable scene we just stepped into.
Right.
Am I capable of finding enough love and care for my partner to manage my discomfort? Sometimes you can't. Sometimes I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important. If I can't, usually I'll say, sweetie, can we just slow down for a moment? Let me drop in. Let me get centered. That's ideally what I do. If I don't do that, then I blew it. I've already gotten reactive. I already started to defend myself or try to fix it or do one of those things, right? Ideally, I say, okay, can I just drop into what's going on here? Kind of get myself together, get ready to manage myself so I can really be present to what's going on with you. Because remember, she doesn't want to be fixed. She wants to be understood.
Yes.
So, I got to give myself, though, that emergency dose of self-empathy. And for me, honestly, it's allowing myself to go, holy shit, this isn't what I want to deal with.
Yeah. But can I interject something?
Yeah, sure. I'm even going to spotlight you on that. My new little thing that I've learned how to do.
Spotlight him.
So,
Go ahead.
so first of all, thank you, both of you. And the one thing I want to say is I can get there for like the first 14 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm good. And if it doesn't get fixed then and she'll like keep going, man, it's so tough. Then I'm like screaming, Mayday, is anybody up there that can help me out here? And everybody, it's like Inside Out. Everybody's running around like a Chinese fire drill. Right? I mean, just all over the board. And so that's the difficult part because I do love her. And going back to one of the things you had talked about, Scott, about that one thing that you love more than anything on the planet, which is my children. And Laura says, what if I was your kids? And I'm like, okay. So I've been practicing that to, bring that in. But that's, like you said, that's a work in progress. It's hard to just take that and transfer it, But yeah, so.
I actually want to give one way to do that.
Oh, good.
Oh, good.
See the 5-year-old in Laura.
Mm-hmm.
And I give this advice to so many of my clients, especially the ones that have children or have had children.
Yeah.
And I see, instead of Laura, who's whatever age she is, can I see the 5-year-old that right now is scared or just wants love? And likewise, it goes both ways. If I'm losing it, can Emily see beyond the 61-year-old man and see the little boy? Can she see Ratfing Scott, in that moment? And really learning to see the inner child of the other and our own inner child. We recently had a really big challenge, and we realized it was because we were both we both had our own trip going on. But the truth is, I was really my little boy, and she was really her little girl.
And they actually don't. It's hard to have them get along. So I just want to say, because again, my little kid, when I'm triggered, I want safety, right? And when his little boy is triggered, he wants love and acceptance. And so if I want safety and he's wanting love and acceptance, that to me doesn't feel safe.
Right.
Because it's like I feel something pulling on me. That's my interpretation. That's my fear. So it's really hard. And so that's why when we're in those really triggered spaces when we're really in our little boy and little girl together, we actually do need to slow things way down and often take space and boundaries. Mm-hmm. So, and that's okay too. It's just like really recognizing how triggered are you and how activated is your little kid up at the same time as your partner, because it's really challenging to navigate those waters together when you're both really in those spaces of your wounded parts together.
I want to acknowledge Gay and Catherine Hendricks, the great couple. Just loving. And they have a wonderful, wonderful saying. They say, here's the key to a successful marriage or relationship. Only one person gets to go crazy at a time, and the person who's not going crazy is in charge. And it's kind of like, it's a funny line, but it's actually really smart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is if you're both going crazy at the same time,
It's usually not going to go
it's
well.
not going to go well.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
So-
like, okay, if Laura's going crazy, can I pull it together and be the one that's centered, not trying to fix her, managing my own discomfort, but being centered and being present to what is without trying to change it.
Right.
If I can do that, great. If I can't, take space.
Yeah.
Can I just give one little bit of feedback that I think was so helpful right now? Because this is where I think we get really tripped up. And you guys, all the advice is amazing about like Emily, the ninja move, and the stuff you said to David Scott. It's sometimes like when I'm triggered and freaked out, and then I say something to David, and then he's saying, "Well, I gave you the empathy." But what's coming across to me is not genuine empathy. It's how do I get rid of this fast? So it's like he's looking at me and he's saying these words, but I'm not feeling it at all. And then he gets mad at me. I'm like, dude, it's not. And he's like, yeah.
But I said, I'm doing the best I can. She's like,
Well,
bullshit. It's energy.
Yeah,
And
I said the
feel
energy.
your-
Totally.
I can feel that he's just going like this. He's like, Mr. Rogers. Sorry, Scott, because I know that you're like, hi, class. This is how you tell your
Got it. I'm
Oh my
spotlighting us
God.
because Emily has something to share about
good.
that experience.
So we have the same dynamic.
Okay.
And I really relate to David. And you again, it's like,
Always.
right, our stuff comes up, our engulfment stuff up, like how long is this going to last? How long is she going to be in this pain? This is overwhelming. How can I how can I fix this? All that stuff's happening. And what's so frustrating is in our reality, we are trying our best. So that's where we need to give ourselves boat tons of appreciation.
Yes.
We are actually trying to do our best. And
Oh,
it-
yeah. So I'm
and
like
we-
chewing on my lip. I'm like chewing on my lip. Like, I really, really want to give this to you.
And we can go into the story of like, okay, it's not good enough.
It'll never be enough.
It's not enough. It won't be right. All that starts coming up. And the reality is that in that moment, you're not capable to give the quality or the kind of empathy that she needs. And that's okay. And Laura, you also have to recognize in that moment that he's not capable to give you the kind or the quality of empathy that you want.
I get it.
And I want to vulnerably say, because of course we just had that happen last week. Where she was doing her best and I wasn't feeling it.
Right.
So the worst thing that we can do, Laura,
Yeah, is demand it.
demand it and accuse them of not being real or not being authentic. Or
Oh,
not
I know. It's
being
terrible.
judging them. Now we're judging them.
Right, which is pouring gasoline on the fire, which is triggering us further if it's not good enough, I can't
Right.
do it right.
So
Oh,
as much as possible to really say thank you. I'm really appreciating what you're trying right now. And then what do I really need? For me, actually, I need her to touch me. If she's sitting across from me and not touching me, and she's saying the words, like she's really smart. So she knows the right words of what I'm feeling, and she knows the right words of what I'm needing.
Right.
She's not feeling it with me. I'm wanting her to feel it with me.
No.
And she doesn't want to get merged with me because I'm yucky right there.
You know what's funny is though,
My thing of, oh, she's judging me. She doesn't really love me enough, because if she loved me enough, she'd be willing to merge with me, right? Which is
okay,
unrealistic expectation that I own. I can go there. And I want to own one other thing,
Right.
entitlement. If I perceive she
Yeah.
hurt me, I
Right.
perceive she did something to hurt me, I'm now entitled to her really giving me the empathy I want. And if she doesn't give me the empathy I want, I'm going to be a little bit of a baby about it.
Well, it's not even about if you hurt me. It's that if you really loved me right
Or
now,
if you really love
you
me.
would give me this. And
Yeah.
that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is your inner kid saying, I am entitled to this.
Yeah.
And again, it's like whenever you feel entitled that you're seeking something outside of yourself, you have an energy of demand.
And it's going to be a lose-lose.
Exactly. You're not going to get your needs met because the other person's going to get triggered by that energy.
Now, one last thing I want to say, if it's okay, because I've kind of owned my stuff, is if I do perceive that Emily is in that place of, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of empathy and then you better get the hell off of it. That's pouring gasoline on my fire too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling like she's really giving me empathy for the
Yeah.
purpose of understanding me. She's just trying to shut me up and be be done with it.
Yeah.
So there's that dynamic. And here's the last piece that's interesting. Her superpower is she gets off things so quickly. So she wants me to get off things really quickly because she knows how to do that. My superpower is embodied empathy. I can really feel with my clients.
So we're both expecting the other to be how we are,
Exactly. You know,
which is so like the way relationship often is. We're just
Right.
projecting ourselves.
yeah, projecting, this is what I want. This is what I can do. This is what I would do for you.
So this is what you should
So
do
that's
me.
what you should be doing for me. I was going to engage the rest of the audience because I know the four of us are having fun. Who can relate? Is this valuable? I'm having a need for reassurance. Who can relate to this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Most of you. Most of
Right.
you. Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
humbling being in a relationship, man. It's like the most humbling. It's like eating humble pie every day.
All the time, but thanks, you guys. We are going to practice everything you gave us, I swear.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I just want to open it up right now because that was dynamic. I'm telling myself that was dynamic and that was a lot of engagement and information. Is there anybody that has any questions? Like, has anything come up for anybody? And maybe even an aha or a question, maybe needing clarity around something?
Stephen, you are unmuted.
Yeah, I just want to highlight that piece about entitlement of like, you hurt me. Now, if you really love me, you would do this for me. Oh my God. I can't, boom. Like I can't even believe how much I run that, and just wanted to share just how much gold I got from that coming forth.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to share reflections? Wendy. You're up.
Hey guys, I just wanted to just reflect on see the inner 5-year-old child. We've talked about this before. You've given me that tool before, but I forgot about it. I had a situation today where that would have been so helpful for me to remember that. So I will go back and use that and include that again.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Wendy. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions, thoughts, reflections?
Lusana.
Very, very powerful. I look forward to listening to this again because this was so rich, so very rich. So mahalo. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Well, I'm noticing we've got 7 minutes left, so maybe talk a little bit how people can. So, of course, we would love to connect with all of you a little bit more, and want to invite. Some of you already are very involved with this. Ann West is one of the primary people who's come and taught, not that much.
Does that help?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I have to spotlight myself to see. So,
Sorry, the lighting is just looking. It's a little.
it's grainy.
okay.
It's getting grainy. But,
We're almost over.
We're almost done. So, would love to have you guys play with us at a deeper level. What does that look like? Well, many of you are already in some of our courses. Right now, we're doing our advanced course, Relationship Mastery. Started a few weeks ago, and Lusana, Wendy, David and Laura, they're all participating in that. But we also have this wonderful online membership site. It's an online portal, and we have weekly live practice groups. Right now, it's every Monday night. That's what David taught last week. And soon we're going to be adding group coaching calls where people come together like this and get coaching. And so it's $11 a month, or it's $90 a year. And not only do you get to be a part of the live practice calls that are like this, but we have this amazing library of ever-expanding videos, 50 videos, 20 webinars, 20 audio podcasts. So we really would love to have you guys come and join us on our online membership site.
I think that's it, so I'm just kidding.
Okay. Emily is getting the URL. Also coaching. Obviously, Emily and I do coaching, but we also refer people to some of our love coaches like Ann West, who's with us. Stephen, Laura, and David are all training right now to become certified love coaches in Love Coach Academy. And so you can find a love coach by going to lovecoachacademy.com. Lovecoachacademy.com. That's kind of our main portal. And there's different buttons. You can click on Find a Love Coach, and that's where you'd find Emily, myself, Anne, Paul Sterling, Katrina, a couple of other coaches that are certified and work with us. Or you can join our online community by going there. Or you can watch some of our videos. We've got some really wonderful, wonderful videos right there at lovecoachacademy.com. If you are interested in coaching from Emily or myself, we sometimes coach individually or as a couple. So we do offer, anybody who's sincerely interested, we do offer a 30-minute breakthrough session. Those are people who are really sincere. And so to know that you're sincere, we ask you to fill out a client survey form. And then we offer a free 30-minute breakthrough session. So there are some possibilities for you. And I want to thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Andrea, for what you just wrote. Thank you, Stephen, for all the wonderful ways that you ran the chat room today. And thank you, Lusana and David and Laura and Stephen for being vulnerable and kind of sharing what's alive for you and letting us do some coaching with you.
Can you grab it?
It's easy. They just go to lovecoachacademy.com. And that'll take them to all the different places.
Yeah. When you go to lovecoachacademy.com, there's a button that says join our online community. And that's where you can find the online portal.
Yeah, just click on it. And that's lovecoachacademy.com is a great place to go because it gives you lots of options. So I think I want to thank everybody. And Stephen, Stephen, I don't know if you are raising your hand to say anything.
Yes, I am.
Great. You're up.
Yeah. I just want to mention for the people, I know there's people from British Columbia that have registered for this call. And we are just so blessed to have the opportunity to have Scott and Emily bring their magic up to Vancouver and Victoria this week and next week. And looks like Salt Spring Island is in the works as well. So if you're close to near those areas, Scott and Emily are in Vancouver on the 22nd of June, the 27th and 28th as well, teaching their advanced communication skills workshop, as well as from wound mates to healthy soul partnerships workshops.
Good.
Is there any way that you can put that in the chat box, Stephen? Like
I already did.
Okay, great. Awesome.
And, if any of you know people in British Columbia, let them know we are on our way. We will be there Thursday night.
Vancouver and then
Victoria
and Nelson. Right.
Yeah. So, and thank you, Stephen, for setting all of that up for us.
All right. Well, we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys soon. So
Good to
thank you
see
so much
each and
for
every one
joining
of
us
you.
tonight.
Thank you so much. Much love.
Much love. Bye.
Good night, everybody.